Hello! It's finally time for one of the most requested items on the channel. It is... Manta Force. That wasn't the Manta Force theme tune, I just made that up. So as you can see, it is a big spaceship toy, and my goodness, it was a staple of the Argos catalogue in the late 80s and early 90s. Now if you don't know what the Argos catalogue is, something of a British institution, been going since the mid-70s, in fact since at least 1973 I think, maybe earlier, I don't know, I didn't look it up. And the idea is they have big shops that are effectively warehouses with the front on, you look through your catalogue at home, pick which items you want, go in and they get it out of the warehouse and give it to you. As the old joke goes, Argos is the Greek god of queuing, because you always have to wait bloody ages to get stuff due to the way it works. But they still survive these days, more internet-oriented than physical paper catalogue-oriented. But my goodness, that was such a thing in the 80s and 90s. You would sit there with your Argos catalogue and look at all the stuff you desperately wanted but couldn't afford, and maybe you'd get one of them for Christmas. And for some people, that thing for Christmas was Manta Force. And it was a very successful toy. They sold a lot of these things because, while they were quite expensive, you got a lot of stuff in it, and it was all self-contained. So not only did you get an impressive-looking gift with lots of little bits and bobs for Johnny to play with, but it all packed away nicely at the end of the day and didn't upset Mum too much. I didn't have one of these back in the day. I've been after one for a while. Eventually got one from the Leicester Vintage Toy Shop, which is a bloody amazing place. People have been going on to me for ages about how good it was, and I finally went in and they were right. Floor to ceiling, 80s and 90s toys, and I tell you what, decent prices as well. Hence why I've now got this. And I must admit, I got a slightly cheaper one because it was a bit broken. You see that bit's come off. It had been badly glued back on by somebody, but unfortunately the train journey back from Leicester claimed it, and it broke. I've got the bit that broke off though. I might try my own crap gluing job later. So this was made by Bluebird Toys in 1986 and was sold for at least 5 years. As I say, it was quite a popular thing. As you can see, it looks like a manta ray or something. And it's got men that control it, you know, like a captain and pilots and things. There's little missiles on the front. And there's all these other guys on the side, you can see there. So there is a story behind Manta Force. For starters, Manta is actually M-A-N-T-A and stands for something. Michael and Natasha's Territorial Army. And the idea is that Michael and Natasha colonise other worlds. No, I'm completely making that up. It stands for Multiple Air Naval Terrain Assault Force. Because inside here is a little army, a little air force, and a little navy. Well, sort of futuristic versions. Let's have a look at the actual thing itself first. As you can see, it is a big old spaceship, big old engines at the back, for cruising through space, because the plot goes that the Earth's all fucked up, like, because, I don't know, they filled it full of rubbish and messed up the environment and all that. So they're flying off through space to find Earth's twin planet. So they can colonise that and fuck it right up as well, I imagine. So, looking at the outside, I did always like the design of this. You know, the more I look at it, the more I do like it. There is something believably space arc about it, do you know what I mean? So anyway, you've got these guns on the side, and these missiles that sit here you can pull off and pop in the gun, and then it will ping off and you'll lose it and never find it again. Except not this one, because it's broken. Here's the problem with very old toys. Oh no, that's gone. That's the end of that. The other one was already missing, so now I don't have any. In here are the little Manta Force men themselves. I'll get the captain out. I presume he's the captain because he's the only one who's silver. There's also a sort of metallic-y blue one who's probably the second in command, and just a blue guy. I think they're loosely coordinated by colours, like the blue is the Navy and the white is the Air Force and the yellow is the land guys. I don't know. Don't really care. And as you can see, they're very, very small and have very strange little faces. Their arms move a little bit, just like that. And they can sit down and things, and the legs are stuck together at the boots there. They have different faces, if I remember actually. There's like a couple of different face variants. Yeah, these are different, look. You've got the more wide-faced older variant on the captain there, and a slightly sharper, younger looking one on the blue fella. There are also two like robot guys or something who I've got laying down in the cockpit there for some reason. I don't know what the deal is there. Are they robots? Are they sort of security guys in spacesuits? We may never know. I don't know why they're asleep either, I just put them there. Also, there's like this weird twin holes in here, if you can see that, where it looks like the captain's chair or something should be, but I think there was never actually anything in those. Anyway, the saucer separates, like in when it does on the Enterprise on Star Trek and that. So this opens out. There we are, that's the big spaceship. It's also got little wheels on the bottom, so you can push it along the floor and stuff, which is quite a nice little extra. Pop that over here, and here is the Manta Force in all its glory, ready to colonise another planet in the name of good old Earth. And it's got a ramp as well, so they can get out easier for their colonising. When I say colonising, they look like they're ready to slaughter an indigenous population, to be honest, because they are full of them guns. Anyway, let's have a look at all these little ships inside then. I believe they all have their own special separate names, and I don't know what any of them are, so we won't say them. Let's start with the underwater guys. Nice simple one. First thing, you've got some sort of weird massive robot exoskeleton for exploring at depth, one imagines. Let's put a fella in it. You shall model everything. We shall call you Eric, and you shall be the man of the Manta Force. There it is. Quite a nice little design. You can see that pootling along the seabed, and then presumably wondering how the hell it's going to get back from the seabed to the surface. And also, it can punch fish, which I find is always incredibly useful in any situation. You've got this little rocket boat type thing. None of these are very aerodynamic, I've noticed. They always, it's quite sleek, apart from the massive pod on the top. That would be a problem, I suppose, if it was a one of the air ones, but being an underwater thing doesn't matter too much. Lots of missiles on this for killings of the fishes and the corals and other such stuff. And finally, the big one, the large underwater zoomy, blowy, uppy, goodness knows what ship, which has space for the two blue guys. You can sit at the back or at the front. What a world we live in. Yeah, it's quite a nice looking thing, that. It looks very spaceshipy, but it's got all fans and stuff, because, you know, they're turbines, because it goes underwater and that. Yeah. I quite like all the designs of the underwater stuff, actually. This one reminds me a bit of sort of one of the Action Force vehicles they used to have. Not so much the others, like Crazy Underwater Robot Guy, but they're all good. Like those. Next up, oh yeah, it's the Air guys, with their quite astonishing, very sleek, but also strangely vertical rocket ship thing. Yeah, nothing particularly to see here, to be honest. There's holes in the side. I don't know if there were missiles or something that went in there at one stage, but this seems more like a scouting craft or something, or, well, something to go along at high speeds. Don't like the design of this much. I mean, it's got like a Mayan temple on the back for some reason. I don't really understand that. It's got wheels, so when it lands and that, but not a massive fan of that one. A bit overly simple, I think. The next one's nifty, though. This is one of my absolute favourites. It's like a crazy jetpack. You put your little fella in here. There we go, mate. And I can't remember how to get him inside. It's probably because the arms are incorrectly aligned. There we are. And, yeah, literally it's just a big jetpack with two massive rockets on it. What poor bastard draws the short straw to fly this thing? I do not know. What protection do you have? Well, literally nothing. You just fly around with a giant engine on your back, and if you fight anyone, you'll probably be horribly killed by any sort of small arms fire. So enjoy that. It's going to be great for your career. I do like that one, though. It's a bit of a off-the-wall design. And this kind of weird helicopter, but not a helicopter, which I don't quite understand. It's more, well, working on the turbine there, I suppose. Can't seem to fit the guy in this one. Oh, there we are. Oh, he looks really uncomfortable flying it as well. Oh, God. Oh, never have a curry then go in one of these. Yeah, so presumably this provides the lift. And it's a case of... all that. This one is almost unarmed. Only 2 missiles for the very, very missile-happy Manta Force people. Yeah, I don't mind that one. That's quite nicely done. Then we've got the land guys, including Super Speedy Bikotron. This is really like one of those scout bikes from the old Dune real-time strategy games, if you remember those. I presume, does he have to sit forward on this? Yeah, it must do like that. Where they'd have the rocket bikes and things at the Ordo. Was it the Ordos who had rocket bikes? Or did they all have rocket bikes? I can't remember, it's been so long since I played those games. But yeah, this thing probably goes like hell, because these appear to be engines rather than weapons of some type. It's got a gun on the front and something else. Or is that the engine under these rockets? Who knows? These are the secrets of the Manta Force. But it's some sort of high-speed attack scout type dealy thing going on. It's got that kind of very retro 80s vibe to the design of this. And well, I mean, there's a hint of that to all of these, aren't there? But even more so in that one, I think. And this weird little thing here, little sort of anti-aircraft gun, I can only presume. I mean, it's got plenty. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 missiles. Are these missiles, or are they in insects' eyes? I'm not entirely sure. And on the back, this upward-pointing laser gun with a little target board, which is clearly some sort of anti-aircraft thing. So you can pootle around in this, blow the shit out of whatever's directly in front of you, and then kill people up in the air as well. So, you know, it's got everything for every hobby, that one. And finally, the big land ship. Oh my goodness, a combination steamroller and missile launcher. Goes along on these crazy tracks. There we are, let's fit you in there, keep the tradition up. And yes, puts this thing down and then presumably blows the shit out of everything in front of it with these giant guns or rocket launchers or whatever they are. A fairly hefty assault vehicle. Oh, there's a little, I didn't realise there's a third space on this. Some poor bastard can sit in that. So, what is the design here? They get to sit behind this armoured cockpit and not get any wind in their eyes and stuff, and some poor bugger just to sit right in front of them like a human shield, and then if they raise this up... Oh, sorry, Bill. Deary me. Don't mind, it's a bit different, isn't it? I do quite like the weird aesthetic of it. And finally, the giant helicopter, God knows what device. It comes with spare missiles in the back, which is very good. And that opens up, so presumably you can just kick the missiles out like a sort of improvised bomb system. And you've got 2 people who sit in the cockpit. You've got a gunner that comes out, that's quite cool. And somebody else who can actually sit on the top and spin around and... I think these missiles fire, don't they? Hang on. Oh, well, not very well anymore, would appear to be the answer to that. Let's give that another shot. No, I think these are the... Oh, no, yep, that worked. That nearly went in my eye. Fantastic. Various little outlets for your little manta men to go in this one. Reminds me of the dropships from Star Wars Attack of the Clones, wasn't it? Very similar to that, actually, but many years beforehand. Don't know why it's yellow, in order to prove it's part of the command ship and not one of the specific air seal land forces, I suppose. But it's weird. Again, it looks like a helicopter without the actual blades. But it's an interesting thing. I like the way it's got many seats and many play opportunities and many murder opportunities for whoever is piloting it. There we are. Back you go in there. So that is Manta Force. You've got an entire set of little men and an entire set of spaceships for them to run around with. Was a bit of a weakness, though. In the early days, they just kind of didn't have anybody to fight against. They were just kind of very missile-happy people, very missile-happy colonists, I suppose you could say. But it was successful, so a second ship came along later, which was Red Venom. I think the story behind Red Venom was it was like the ship that followed this one when it found somewhere to land. But the Red Venom was taken over by an evil guy, and so all the people on it were evil. And it was less of a thing. I mean, the price for this in the Argos catalogue in 1988 was £30, and Red Venom was 20 because it was a bit less of a thing. You didn't get all these different spaceships. It was like one main spaceship with 2 other ones that came out of it, and these sort of weird little pod things you could fit people in that fired out as well. Very cool looking ship though, very sort of angular. And that wasn't it. There was also something called the Barracuda that was like a big black thing with like a gigantic row of missile teeth at the front. Again, smaller than the main Manta Force ship. Interesting. They had a kind of fixed base that they'd presumably they build when they're colonising. And the finest of them, Vile Stinkhorn's Bog Rocket. Yes, that's really what it was called. They had like a third faction come in of this horrible, horrible alien thing. And it was, I've seen this thing. Harry Partridge has got one. He showed me, and it was the most astonishing things. There's some really unpleasant stuff. There's like this acid bath in it with like melting Manta Force men in it. And they're actually separate molten Manta Force men, but they've all like been horribly killed by acid, and their arms and legs are hanging off and things. It was a heck of a toy, but it came quite late in the range, so you don't see them around that often. So there we go. You could also buy, I think you could buy like separate vehicles and stuff in little packs, which were generally just these in a different colour plastic, if I recall. But there we are. That is Manta Force, sold for about 5 years, which is quite a long time in toys of this type. So, you know, many people got it and many people have fond memories of it. And I'm not surprised, because, you know, it's a cool play set, stroke, whole set of figures, stroke entire fucking army of vehicles. What more do you want in your space exploration play? There was even a Marvel Comics spin-off of it. I think they did 2 or 3 of them, you know, telling the story of Manta Force and why you really should hassle mum and dad to get this toy for Christmas. But there we go. We must now leave Manta Force as they fly away to find Earth's triplet planet and then fuck it up with missiles. And if you'd like to see another take on this, the Nostalgia Nerd did it on his channel in a very good video, so you can have a look at that afterwards if you like. Yes.
Subscribe for more.